Hello, this is Storm Warden coming back at you today with another video update. And today we're going to talk about the active pattern that's going to come up in the weather world with a severe weather opportunities out in the central part of the country and then the potential for some tropical development out down in the Caribbean. So we're going to talk about today. If you like my weather content, please subscribe. But without further ado, guys, got a lot to talk about today, so we're going to get right into it. So starting with the GFS look, and we have a, well, I want to go ahead and show you that we have a 15% risk for severe weather out here in the central part of the country. And I talked about this earlier this week, how, at some point I thought that we were going to get an area over here highlighted for severe weather potential, and that seemed to have happened overnight. We now have a 50% risk for severe weather out here in the central part of the country. That should bring potential for some active weather out there. And then down here in the Atlantic, we have a 20% risk for tropical development down here in the Caribbean. That should also be give us some potential for some active weather down here in the tropics. But again, it's only a 30% chance cyclone formation. But again, that did get highlighted, and I talked about that earlier this week as well. So it looks like things are going as planned. So we're going to start off by showing you just the look of the 12Z GFS, and this is just coming out now. But you can see our trough digging down by Wednesday, and that gives us that decent shot of some severe weather by Wednesday with some damaging winds, hail, and isolated tornado threat. That should bring some active weather into play in the central part of the country. And then looking over here towards the Caribbean, you want to watch out for any development down here. You see that area of low pressure down here in the eastern Caribbean, and that's been the trend. Things have been trending further east, which is more in line with climatology for November. So again, right now, no threat to the lower 48, but we could certainly get some tropical development down there in the Caribbean. Now, looking at the Euro model, which goes out a little bit further, because this is the overnight run model, and we're going through time, and you're gonna notice that trough really digs down Wednesday, and that gives us that active weather, that damaging wind, hail, and isolated tornado threat, and then we get that threat of tropical development down here in the Caribbean by later on next week or later on this upcoming week, and that may develop into a tropical cyclone down near that area. But again, still some questions regarding how fast it develops, when it develops, and where it goes after it develops. Now, looking at our 500 millibar heights, we're going to start off with the GEFS. And this, like I always say, this shows us well what we're going to be dealing with over the next week. You can see our trough really digging down as you get into our Wednesday morning, and this is what's going to bring us that severe weather to Oklahoma, parts of Texas, and going into just the central parts of the country, Kansas. And this is what's going to bring us that severe weather opportunity later on this week, really Wednesday going into Thursday. And then I want you to notice how that ridge over the eastern United States is pretty strong. That's what's going to give us that warmer weather for our Halloween and just basically for our upcoming week. That's what's just really going to give us that really warm air for our Halloween. So not really going to be feeling too much like Halloween, more like late August probably with that warmer air over us. Now, if you notice today, you go outside, it's pretty cool, pretty rainy. We had a little trough move through overnight, which I talked about earlier this week as well, as that may bring us some subsequent rain, some drizzle, and some cooler weather, which has done that today. But our ridge is going to build back in fairly quickly, and that should bring us warmer and hotter air for the later on this week. And the ridge doesn't really look to go anywhere. We're getting into early November. We're still looking at a pretty warm pattern, but signs are that as you get into early November or the second week of November, we could be seeing a trough move through, which should number one up our rain chances, and two help bring in some cooler air maybe, but really should help give us better rain chances to be going to early November. Now, in our EPS 500 millibar heights, and we're looking at this, and it generally shows the exact same thing. Our trough really digging down to our Wednesday, Thursday should bring us that good severe weather opportunity here in the plains, the central part of the country. And then notice that very strong ridge over the eastern United States. That should also help anything that does get going in the Caribbean. It shouldn't really be able to pull northward. And you rarely ever see a tropical system ever, just run right into a strong ridge of this magnitude. So things trending further east definitely makes more sense to me, and it's more in line with climatology for our November systems. And you can just see our ridge kind of just stays there, until later on in November, we get that trough to really dig down, and that should up our rain chances, and also maybe bring us some subsequent cooler air for our eastern United States. Now, I talked about the tropics a little bit, and we're looking at this, and we're going to start with the GFS ensembles, and I want you to watch this area down here in the Caribbean because that's the area you want to watch out for any development. And you're going to notice that it really starts to highlight this area in the Caribbean, and look how it just blows up, and so that just shows us the potential for a potential tropical cyclone. But if you notice and you really look at this, there's not a bunch of these that really hit anybody in the lower 48. So any crazy model solutions that are showing, Florida or anybody else getting hit by a crazy tropical system, nearly to mostly all of the ensemble members, none of them really hit land. There's a couple in there, isolated ones that do, but most of them either go off to our east, which makes a lot more sense to me, or they kind of just linger around the Caribbean. So again, there's not really a huge concern to the lower 48. EPS ensemble members, they're a little bit more delayed with development, and they're further east. But you can see how they too try to develop something, but again, none of these really, are impacting the lower 48. So, again, any crazy model solutions that are showing a Florida hurricane, more than likely that's just not the case right now. Again, we can't throw anything off the table, but right now it's looking like we'll have a system develop in the Caribbean and then probably push east with that very strong ridge over top and then subsequent troughing. I don't really see how this thing can get that far north. But again, things can change. Weather always changes. Very, very warm ocean waters down in the Caribbean. So if something does develop, I can certainly see something getting going down here. But again, there's still some questions. You see that 20% area down in the Caribbean. Now, after I talked about all of this, look at our Climate Prediction Center temperature outlook. And this just shows that we're going to have a fairly warm Halloween this year. That's a pretty strong ridge, which is why we're seeing, fairly high above normal probabilities for above normal temperatures. And we get to our 8 to 14 day outlook, that doesn't really change. We're still seeing above normal temperatures primarily for the entire country, is that as our pattern becomes pretty zonal. And then I want you to watch out for our precip chances. And look how we really start to get out of that drought look that we were seeing. And notice how as we get into later on towards second week of November, we're seeing that higher probs for above average rainfall. Nothing that's extreme, but there are chances that signs that we are going to be looking at more above average rainfall as we go deeper into November. So that was kind of quick, but kind of on a short leash. But just want to give you guys an update on this. 15% risk of severe weather out here in the central part of the country, which equals a slight risk of severe weather. So, we're already seeing a slight risk this far out. I wouldn't be surprised to see a smaller enhanced risk. I really haven't got a chance to really delve deep into this threat, but I will certainly give you guys a much more detailed threat on this severe weather risk as we get deeper into the week. But generally speaking, guys, active times are kind of ahead. Some tropical development possible, some severe weather opportunities possible in the central part of the country. It also looks like rain chances may increase for the eastern U.S. as we get into the second week in November. So definitely some good signs for those who haven't seen rain in a long time for the eastern United States. But again, if you're looking for any cool light fall weather, enjoy today because our warmer weather is going to be right on the return by Halloween.